Hi everybody, it's Virginia Milner and I am back with another tutorial. And today what we're going to do is learn how to make paper beads. We're going to learn the proper way to make paper beads. I've seen lots of different ways. There's nice easy ways that you could do it. Just make it with nail polish, but it's not going to be strengthened as much as it needs to be. It's you can make a nice paper bead that's just something that you want to play with, and you can wear it once or twice, but it's not going to hold up unless you go through the entire process. I am squeezing this as hard as I can, and it is as hard as a bead, which is the way it should be. So I'm going to show you the proper way to make paper beads. It's very easy, very simple. It does take some time because there is a process of letting the solution that you put on the beads dry in between, dry repeatedly, and keep applying and drying and applying and drying, sort of like your nails. You put a coat of polish on, you have to let it dry before you put the second coat of polish on. Otherwise, you're going to have a big mess. So I'm going to show you how to make them, and we're going to make this lovely bracelet that I just absolutely adore. It's nice, it's colorful, really lightweight, and it's just very, very, very pretty. I like it. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to make the beads themselves, then we're going to make a bracelet out of the beads. So the first thing I want to show you is the different sizes. You can, the way you cut these is you cut them in strips. You have a wide end and a narrow end. And the wide end is going to determine the size of your beads. Now, the ones that I did for this bracelet, where I got 4 beads, these are about 7/8 of an inch. So what I'm going to do is make some slightly smaller beads so that we can add at least one more bead to our bracelet. So these are about 5/8 of an inch. So I'm going to show you what you need to do in order to get the size that you need. Long end denotes the width of the beads, and the short end really doesn't have anything to do with size. So the first thing that we're going to do is find a nice piece of paper. It can be any kind of paper you like. I like using magazines, so I will absolutely tear up my very, very old Vogue book, because everything's out of date in there anyway. It doesn't matter. In search of nice, colorful pages in order to make very pretty beads. So remember, the narrow end is what's going to show the most at the top, because it's going to be the last thing rolled on. Okay, so what I've done here is pulled out a piece of magazine paper that's got all different colors on it, but at the top it's got really, really pretty colors. So what I'm going to do is cut my strips so that that ends up on the top. So the first thing I want to do is measure my base. So I'm going to take my ruler, and down here at the bottom of my page, these are about a regular 8.5 length, and that's going to be the thing that you want to look at the most. If you have some real, or not 8.5, 11 inches, which is your normal magazine size. If you have some really long paper, that's great because they get a lot fatter. The longer the strip is that you use, the fatter your beads are going to be. So I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to find the 1/2 inch mark, because I want to go about 1/2 to 5/8 of an inch. Let's see here. Yeah, about 1/2 inch. I'm going to go over to one corner of my page, find the 1/2 inch mark, which is right here, and I'm going to mark that off at the bottom of my page. And then I'm going to angle my ruler until I get to a point. So I have a wide bottom, and it's going to get narrower as I go to the top. So I'm going to start here. I know this is where I'm going to end. I don't want it to peter off and to nothing at the top. I want a little bit of paper up there. So I'm going to start here and I'll mark my strip and cut. There we go. And there's my strip. Okay. So the other thing that you're going to need, in addition to your paper, the ruler, you need your glue, of course, scissors, which we just used, and you need something to roll this on. Now this can be any number of things. You can use a chopstick, which is what I have here. You can use a skewer. You can use any narrow cylindrical item. It just depends on how large you want the holes on the end to be. If you don't know what you're going to string it on, if you might string it on a yarn or something like that, something slightly bigger with a slightly bigger hole that will leave a slightly bigger hole at each end might be a good idea. But then you don't have to worry about what you're going to put it on. It will fit anything. So the first thing that you're going to do is take your paper and put about 1/4 of an inch up. You're going to put it on your skewer and just roll it until you have just a little bit of paper rolled and meeting the rest of the paper. So we've got a small fold in here. And then I'm going to take a little bit of glue, just put it, and I just want a thin line of glue. You don't have to glop it on, just a nice little thin line, because what's going to happen is when you start to roll, the glue is going to start to spread out, and you don't want it to spread out past the edge of your bead. So I'm going to start rolling, 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 and can you see that the glue is starting to spread out a little bit? Now the biggest thing I want to make sure of is that the ends are rolling down the middle. Okay, I've come to the end of my little glue trail. I'm going to add a little bit more. Again, very thin stream. Keep rolling. Nice trail of glue. Now, I have seen this done where they don't put any glue on it until the very end. If you want to do that, that's perfectly fine, especially if you're using something like Mod Podge and you're going to just dip it down in the Mod Podge. But what we're doing is applying it a little bit as we go, and then that way I know that the paper will be saturated. Okay, and I just want to make sure that this is centered. So the strip of paper should be rolling on the center of your bead. The narrow part right down the center. Okay. Some more glue. A little bit more. Ooh, the colors in this are very vibrant. I love it. The thin trail. And right there near the end, put a little bit on the tip. Hold it. And spread that over. And there is my bead. Lovely. Nice and colorful. I'm going to take it off my skewer, nice and easy. Don't squeeze because it's still paper at this point. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue on there. And you want to put this on in thin coats because if you make it too thick, again, use your nails as an analogy. You don't want too thick a coat of nail polish to go on it first. You want a nice thin coat, let it dry, another thin coat, and let that dry. It's the same process with this. And when you're spreading your glue on, make sure you go all the way to the ends. You don't want the middle to get nice and hard, but the ends to be weak because otherwise they'll get all bent and frayed and it will be ruined. It won't be a true bead. So this glue is really great too, because of course glue leaves it nice and shiny. But if it's not shiny enough for you when you're finished, nail polish. Just put a nice little coat of nail polish on it and it will have a nice gloss, just like these do. Okay, so I've got my glue on. This is the other one I just made. Then what I do is slide it on a piece of wire. You can use a coat hanger. If you have a lot of them, you can open up a coat hanger, string them across. I saw a video of how they do it in Africa. They string it along a long string of wire and they hang it out in the sun to dry. And then they just dip them in between after they've dried. But it's a really good way to get them to dry all the way through. If you don't have that type of space, just put it on a piece of wire, anything that will fit over it. Find a container of some sort that you can string it up, string them up in between, and just let them dry. Once they've dried enough that you can add another coat of glue, let that dry, add another coat, let it dry. Give it a good hour, hour and a half in between, depending on how thick you put the glue on. I would suggest not too thick. You want it to dry completely through. The more it dries, the harder the beads will get, like this. I'm squeezing as hard as I can get. They aren't budging, but that takes time. It is a process. So you want to make sure that it dries in between. It took 3 days of drying and adding and drying and adding and drying and adding to get this done. It took about 5 coats of glue. But I wasn't just twiddling my thumbs in between waiting for it to dry. That's the easy part. You put these on, takes about, you roll them up, Takes about a minute. Put it off to the side, let them dry, come back a couple hours later, add some more glue, let it dry, etc., etc. Okay, so that part is finished. These are the beads, the finished product, almost. Have to wait for them to dry and then add some more glue, but you can see how they turned out. Very pretty. So now what we're going to do is make our bracelet. And I'm going to use these beads for that. They're already finished and ready to use. Yeah, so I'm going to clean up my hands, get this glue off them, and then I will be back and I'll show you how to make your bracelet. Okay, we're back. So now we are ready to make our bracelet. So the first thing that we're going to do is measure out some wire. We're going to be using 20 gauge wire for the entire piece. So the first thing that we want to do is make our frame. This is a two-parter. We make the frame first, and then we add the beads second. So the first thing that I want to do is decide how big I want my bracelet to be. And because we're doing a lot of twisting, it's almost impossible to know exactly how much. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to give myself 2 feet of wire. So I've got 2 feet of 20 gauge wire cut here. And then when I'm stringing my beads on, I'm going to give myself about 18 inches of wire. So we're going to start with the 2 feet of wire. And the first thing that I'm going to do is bend it in the middle. So what I want to do is find my center. I'm putting my ends together here. I know my center is about here. And I'm going to pull it until I have a loop in the center. I want my loop to be a good about 3/4 of an inch. I've got my ruler here. It's about 1/2 an inch. Actually, 1/2 an inch should be good because this end is what you're going to use for the hook of your clasp. So I've got about 1/2 an inch here. You can see my 2 ends here are about the same length. So now what I'm going to do is take my loop and give it a twist and then give it another twist. So now I have a nice loop that I'm going to use for my clasp. So now I form my frames. Depending on the size that you make your beads, that's going to determine the size of your frame. Now, my beads are about 5/8 of an inch long, so I need to make sure that they will fit in the frame. So it's going to need to be about 3/4 of an inch in length. Actually, it's going, yeah, about 3/4 of an inch. You want to give yourself about at least 1/4 of an inch more. It depends on how much distance you want in between the ends of your beads and your bead itself. So I'm going to give it, yeah, I'm going to give it about 3/4 of an inch. Cross it over until I find my 3/4. And make your twist. Now, you need to be careful because when you're twisting, you don't want to close it up so that it's too small for your beads to fit into. So if you're feeling more comfortable, give yourself another 1/8 of an inch, about 7/8 of an inch for my 5 or 3/4, yeah, 7/8 of an inch for my 5/8 of an inch bead instead of 3/4. I'm going to give myself 7/8 of an inch. Test it out to see if that's enough. If my bead goes through, then I know I'm good. It's a little tight, and you can just do it that way. Just check it by putting your bead in there. Make sure it will go through. And then I'm going to twist, just like I did up here. Give it a twist. Check, make sure it's still good. Yes, give it another twist. Check it out again. And you can see that it's not too big and it's not too small. It's just fine. So there's my first frame for my beads. I'm going to make my second one. I want to make sure that it's close to the same size as of my other one. But in order to make sure that it's going to fit my beads, you want to make sure that your beads are all the same size. If they're not the same size, then just decide where you want your beads to go and then measure off each one to see if it's going to fit the frame that you want it to go into. Or just take the largest bead and make them all that size. That's probably the easiest route. Another frame. Give it a twist. Good. Give it another twist. And there's my second frame. And I'm going to continue to do this. Get another frame. Oh, and just to be careful, you don't want to close this up. You don't want these straight because you want it to be an oval shape so that your bead fits inside. If you measure a straight length like this, and then you open it out, that's going to shorten your length. So make sure that you have an oval shape or a rounded shape, depending on the shape of your beads. And once you've made that shape, then you want to check your length to make sure your beads are going to fit. Okay. Just check it out again. Yep. Give it another twist. Very good. Now, is it going to be perfect? No, of course not. It's handmade. This is a handmade piece, which is always better than anything that you can get mass produced. And that's what makes it one of a kind, because you made it yourself. Nobody will have it but you, which is something I say a lot. I love it. I hate to see myself coming and going and Susie Q around the corner having the same thing that I do. Call me selfish. I don't care. I like to be individual. Okay, so there we go. That goes through nice and easy, easy peasy. Check it out again. Make another twist. Okay, now you can see why you needed to make it a little bit longer. And what I like to do is check it out. I've got 4 frames now. I think I can do one more. I can get one more bead in there. I was kind of hoping that maybe I could get 6 beads in, but I don't think so. Unless I take my pliers and make this shorter. I have to be careful because I don't want to lose length. So I'm going to leave it alone. Okay. So I'm going to make one more frame. What am I doing there? Yes. One more frame. Let me check. What I'm going to do is wrap it around. See how it looks on my arm. Yes, I can get one more in there. Wonder if I can sneak in another one, but I kind of doubt it. Okay, that's another frame. Straight. Okay, good. Testing. Testing. Twisting. Good. Okay, now let's check it out. And one of the things I like to do is kind of wrap it around something. You can just use your fingers. You don't have to wrap it around anything if you don't want to, but I just like to check it out, make sure it looks like it's going to fit my wrist the way I want. And there we are. There's my end. Good. So we're going to finish it off. So what I'm going to do is take my end and I'm going to take one side and make a loop. And this side's a little longer than the other one, so why not use that side? So I'm going to make a loop, bring this one over like so, and make a nice little loop there. Let me see, I don't want that to go. There we go. There we go. Looks like I have a little man with his arms out. A nice loop. There we go. Nice little loop. Now I'm going to wrap that around, that piece of wire around until it meets the other wire on the other side. So now they're both together. And what I'm going to do see, it kind of looks like a little scarf blowing in the wind. Woo! So what I'm going to do is wrap these two wires around the loop, nice and tight. Until I create a little scarf around my loop. Nice and tight there. Very organic. So there I have a nice little scarf on my piece. Tighten that down a little bit. There we go. Now I'm going to clip this off. Let's just squeeze my wires together a little bit so that they're nice and as neat as I can get them. Now I'm going to clip the ends off, but I'm going to leave myself just enough so that I can tuck those ends down inside my little opening here. Can you clip that? Clip the other one off. I'm going to take my pliers and just push that down inside the little opening. And do the same with the other one. Just push it down in there nice and deep so that it's not only hidden, but so that it won't pop back up. There. There we go. Okay, so there's my frame. Just kind of play with it. Widen these little frames out a little bit. So that they'll be nice and ready for my beads. And that is part 2. So these ends that we cut, don't worry, we're going to be using them a little bit later. So now I have my 18-inch piece of wire here. And I need to attach it to my frame. So what I'm going to do is take a nice little inch of wire and let that hang over. Maybe 1.5 inches or so. You can just eyeball it. And I'm going to squeeze that until it's nice and tight together. And if you need to, you can use your pliers for that. And now I'm going to wrap it up towards the loop until I get to the top. And then I'm going to tuck that end down into the little bowl that we made for our scarf. Push that down in there. Check it out with my fingers to make sure nothing's sticking out. It's nice and secure. And now we can apply our beads. Okay, so we're going to wrap Give a couple of wraps down the side over where you've twisted. Grab your first bead, pick a color, any color, feed it on the wire. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a bend. Just kind of curve it. Push my bead down in the frame. And then curve the wire again. Kind of gives it a nice little graceful curvature. And there's my first one. And then I'm going to wrap the wire around the twisted part once and twice. And then grab another bead, any color again, your choice. Feed it on. Give myself a little bit of a bend. Frame my bead. Another little bend on the other side. And wrap. I like to give myself at least 2 wraps just so that I know it's nice and secure. And it also helps to strengthen this wire so that you have a nice secure bracelet. Let's go with the yellow one. Just because. String it on. Give myself a little curve. Put my bead in the frame. Another little curve. And wrap. And next bead. Let's go with this one. Let's go green in it. I love this bracelet mostly because it just defies any particular color. The paper beads are so much fun because unless you're using a solid piece of paper, they come out all different beautiful colors that just kind of bleed together and make something unique and just gorgeous. That's one of the reasons I love them. Another bend, couple of wraps, and my last bead is coming up. Ooh, what do I want to use? Let's see. I'm going to use this blue one. These look like the others. Okay, so nice blue bead. Thread it on. Give it a little curve. Push my bead down inside. Give it another little curve. And wrap. Now, we're finished. But what we want to do is kind of recreate what we did on this end. Give this side a little bit of a scarf. So we're just gonna, and we only have one wire, so it's a little easier. So just kind of build and build and build and build until you have a scarf, just like the other side. And again, does it have to be perfect? Of course not. Okay, build it up. And take my end. And tuck it inside. loop. Easy peasy. It's one of the easiest things I've ever done. I mean, it's just so easy. Love it, love it, love it. Ta-da! Now, let's shape it. And again, you can, I'm going to push this down a little bit. You can use something to shape it. Let's take this round thing. I like to take something that's actually smaller than my wrist to create my shape. There. And then we're going to have a nice S hook that's going to complete it. So there we are. Remember those little scraps of wire I told you we were going to use? We're going to make an S hook. My hook of choice. I don't want it to be too tight. So I want my hook to be about an inch. That should do it. Straighten it out a little bit. All right, so I'm going to make a little bit of a loop, tiny little loop in my wire. I'm going to grab the tip of my wire with the tip of my pliers and make the smallest loop. It doesn't have to be too small because you have a very large receptacle. So it doesn't have to be so tiny. You don't have to worry as much about this one. So I've got a nice small loop here. Slide my pliers in so that the loop is hanging over one side of my pliers, like so. I'm going to slide it all the way back to the back of my pliers just before I get to the hilt. And then I'm going to bring my wire up and over until it touches the top of my pliers. So there's the top of my loop. The bottom of my loop is the part that swoops down. The top of my loop is where the flat part of the wire is. So there's the flat part of my wire. And then there's the little loop on the bottom. So I'm going to slide that in to the very base of my pliers. And make a nice little shepherd's hook by bringing the tail of my wire over the pliers until it meets the top of my loop. And there's 1/2 of my hook. I'm going to go to the other side and do the same thing. Make a nice loop. Now this loop that I make here is going to be looping in the direction of the other loop on the same side. So again, I'm grabbing my wire with the tip of my pliers and I'm going to make the loop in the direction of on the same side as the other one. I'm going to make a nice little loop here. There we go. Go in with my pliers down to the hilt of my pliers. and make another loop. Now, this is a little bigger than I want it to be. I don't want it that big. So I'm going to unfurl it. And just make it a little bit smaller. So what I'm going to do is cut that loop off. This is about 1/4 of an inch that I'm taking off. And let's go again. Practice makes perfect. Make a little loop. Neat my wire up a little bit. Slide back in down to the base of my pliers. Loop sides hanging over the side. Okay, it's hanging over one side and the other side. Bring my pliers, my loop over until the long edge meets the top of my loop. And there's my hook. This one's a little bit longer than the other. Let's make a correction. So what I'm going to do is cut a little bit more of this loop off. And make it a little smaller. So let's roll that up till my loop is closed. And there we go. A lot closer. Now, one of the things that I like to do is take like a little rubber mallet or something, just something rubber because you don't want to damage your wire. I got this at the dollar store. It's a kid's toy, I guess. And I just literally got this at the dollar store. It says rubber mallet on it. Now you can get an actual tool to do this in the jewelry section of the craft store, but hey, this was $1. So I just got to pound it out. And the rubber is good because it will not damage my wire. Don't hit your finger. Now, notice I'm covering the ring because if I pound on my ring too much, it will start to open up. And you don't want to pound it. I'm just giving it a few little good whacks. And then I'm going to flip it over with a few more good whacks. When I want to really go at it, I'm covering up my ring so it doesn't open out. But if it does open up, it's an easy correction. A few little taps. That gives it some more strength. And we are good to go. And there's my bracelet. Lovely. I can put it back on here again. Make sure it's shaped nicely. Ah, love it. I can stack these and wear them together. I mean, so pretty. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm probably taking up enough time. I don't know how much time this video is taken. But anyway, that is how you do this. It's a lot of fun. Kids can do it. You can use these beads. You can string them on anything, really. And they're so colorful and beautiful that you don't need any other adornment. This is all you need. Very versatile, very easy. all you need is some paper and some glue. It's the easiest thing in the world. And if you can't get out to go buy a lot of stuff, there you have it. You've got glue, hopefully. You've got some paper. You can sit around and you can roll those things up forever. And then all you have to do is wait for them to dry, do another, roll some more up, add some more glue, set them to the side, let them dry. Matter of fact, let me check this out. Still a little tacky. Oh my gosh, but it's hard already. That's awesome. I did a very good job. That's nice and hard. I feel a little bit of give. I figure if I do 2 more coats and let it dry for another few hours, then add some shiny nail polish, these are going to be gorgeous. I am very happy with them. So that's our tutorial for today. Once again, Virginia Miller signing off and hoping that you all stay safe and well and busy while we try to keep you busy with some of these classes. I hope you enjoy it. Please let me know. Send me an email, give me a comment, let me know how you're doing, how we're doing. If there's anything you don't understand, please let me know, because I would love to be able to help you through feedback. That's one of the things I miss the most about not being in the classroom, is not having that immediate, I don't know what you're talking about. How do I do this? What are you doing? What am I doing wrong? I really miss that. So please, please, please feel free to let me know what it is you need to know. What am I not showing you that you have questions about? Just please feel free to bombard me with questions. So far, I've had some really interesting things that people have made in accordance with the videos, and I love it. I really miss seeing people's creations, and I hope to see some of yours. So until next time, stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.